Quig quay. Holy the Hornsey. Punky sky. We're going down. Hi everybody. Thinking good thoughts today. I'm happy. I've been doing a lot of work. Healing work, detoxing, working with new cultures, different types of yogurt with raw fresh goat milk. It's been really, really nutritious and rewarding stuff. So, what I want to talk about is it a disease? Is it a disorder? Is it a syndrome? Or is it a spirit? Is it a type of spirit? But let's start with mixing and matching. Mixing different belief systems and putting them together and thinking that you're going to get results that work and aren't faulty, misleading, disruptive, putting you into a state of spiritual paralysis or spiritual anesthetized anesthesia, spiritual anesthesia, which happens to a lot of people. I mean, a lot of them think they're free and they're actually really caught in this cycle of where they actually feel good, but you can be in a spiritual position where you feel really good while you're being eaten. It's actually a way to protect us from suffering. So let's talk about mixing and matching. You can't just mix and match different spiritual paths and different ways of being. It doesn't work like that. These are, if you don't believe in it and you don't believe in the power, then you're just playing around and like a child playing in the mud and mixing water and different things together with sand and mud and just playing, but there's nothing coming out of that other than play. And I'm not disparaging play. It's the best way to learn is play. But this stuff, you get stuck. It is not okay to mix. And let me give you an analogy to that. If you were playing lacrosse, but you started mixing in rules of soccer or hockey, you're not playing lacrosse. And you won't play well, and you're not going to win anything, and you're not going to do well. Just like if you go ice fishing, and you act like you're playing lacrosse, you're not going to catch fish. Okay? So let's go to another analogy. Let's say you want to bake some bread. That's, very formulaic. I know baking quite well. So you want to bake some bread, but you're also going to use a recipe for a casserole and mix the two together. And just ad hoc it together. You're not going to get a bread, and you're not going to get a casserole. When you're doing straight up arithmetic, you don't mix in algebra. You don't mix in any other kind of math. Calculus. You're not going to mix it in. You don't do that. You work with the thing that you're working with. Don't mix the stuff together. It doesn't work that way. You just end up with a mess. And you're not going to get where you need to be. Don't mix spiritual traditions. Don't do it. They're not meant to be mixed. They don't work like that. Same with allopathic medicine. You start mixing that with natural, indigenous medicine, native medicine, natural ways to heal. Allopathic medicine doesn't work like that. Obviously, there's overlap because allopathic medicine is trying to address the body, the soma, your body, physiology. Some of it tries to address your mental state and your emotional state, but spirit doesn't exist in that medicine. And spirit is the ground of being. Spirit is where we come from. So they never go to the root. They never go to source. So if you're trying to mix allopathic medicine with indigenous native medicine, other than the places that it overlaps, you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to be going around in circles. And allopathy just really only treats symptoms, doesn't resolve anything. So let's get into some allopathic stuff here. They say you have this kind of disorder. You have a social disorder. You have an anxiety disorder. They give you a label, a diagnosis. I would not diagnose anybody. Okay? They give you a diagnosis and a label. And people grab onto that because it gives them comfort. If they feel like, oh, now I know something's wrong, and they bring that right into their identity. It becomes part of their identity, and they identify with that disease, that disorder, that syndrome. And it becomes part of them. They take it on. They begin to own it. But is it really useful? Is it helpful? More and more people sick, more and more mental illness. The more these people practice their medicine and use their ways, the more illness and mental despair comes in. This stuff is very fresh, very new. It's not very old. They've only been doing it for 100 or so years. And they don't know what they're doing. They are hurting people. Some of them know what they're doing. So is it a syndrome? Is it a disease that you identify as part of you? Is it a medical condition? So these things, human, animals, living beings, they're in constant state of flux. If you take a test, if you give a diagnosis, you're locking in at one point in time on something that is never the same. We are never the same. We are constantly changing. Like a river. It's always the same river, but the river is never the same. You're always the same being, but your being is never the same. You're in constant growth, constant transformation, constant flux. And when you give someone a grade or a diagnosis, or say you're at this level and that's where you are, that's just a snapshot in time. That's about as useful as last week's weather forecast. Right? Because you've moved on, you've changed. Now, there is some use in these old forecasts because you can come back around in the cycle and see how things are close to match up on that date or whatever. But, last week's forecast ain't all that useful for you today, here and now. So let's get into this. Is it a spirit? Or is it a disorder? Is it a syndrome? Well, I know how spirits behave and they act. Let me ask you this. Ask yourself this. Ask yourself this. When they say it's a disorder or a syndrome, let's talk mental illness. Let's talk mental well-being and spiritual, mental, spiritual, emotional health. Okay? Is it a spirit or is it a disorder or is it a syndrome? Does it affect your emotional state? Does it take over your emotional state? Does it rise up when you're triggered, when something happens, to wake that spirit up, to summon it? A summoning, an awakening. That's what happens when they call it a trigger. That spirit rises up. Does that spirit take over your emotional state? Does it change how you see the world around you? Blinding you, altering your vision? Does it change what you hear, the sound, the way things sound to you, like more aggressive, more scary, more threatening? Does it change how you hear? Does it change how you feel? Does it change your feelings, your emotion? Is it affecting your heart space? Does it change how you feel? Does it affect your physiology? Does your blood pressure go up? Does your heart rate go up? Do you feel pressure ringing in your ears? Stress? Or the opposite, does your heart rate slow? Do you go into recession, recede into yourself, become quiet, disappear, try to blend in? Does it change your posture? Does it change how you stand? Does it change your smile? Does it change your mood? These are all things in traditional, natural, human medicine that spirits do. These are what spirits do. And let me just go ahead and tell you to try this exercise right here, right now. Because none of these spirits are here to hurt you. They call these disorders, they say something's wrong. That's not true. They are not there to hurt you. These spirits are not there to protect you. That's why you don't confront them, you don't fight with them. There's nothing there trying to get you. These come up because it was a way that you learned to protect yourself, to defend you from something that happened, from a traumatic experience. So these spirits rise protect you, to keep you from getting to the situation that got you hurt last time. But that's also in the past, and these spirits, they get stuck temporally, dislocated. They, as you know, time in the inner world, the spirit world, does not exist. You can go forward, backwards, and these things are out of time. They're from the past, usually, but they're riding with you in the present, and they're carrying a burden and a load, and they're trying to protect you. But you can talk to these things. You can call it whatever diagnosis you want and talk to it, but ask it if it has another name it'd like to go by. You can ask it, you can talk to it. If you treat it as a spirit, as a being that you can talk to and you can work with and negotiate and understand that it's not trying to hurt you. And there's different kinds, and we'll get into that, later, whether they're the kind of spirits like the eagles that manage everything and soar above and see everything, that are more like supervisors. But then there's also defensive, protective spirits that protect us, that come up, and they're a little bit different. And there is a new kind of psychology called family systems therapy, which is encroaching on this type of medicine, but it's really a pale shadow. It's effective, but it's not, it's not very well developed, and it is allopathic. If you can talk to these spirits, you can talk to them, and you can ask them, hey, I want to work with you. Can you give me a little space? I didn't mean to upset you. And I can't really get into how to work with these things very well here. So, what is more functional? What is more useful? The way you look at the world and the way you see things is going to tell you how to interact with it. If you see materialism, if you see the world materialistically, that you're just a physical being, you're just a machine that has inputs and outputs, and will always respond with these inputs, and that's just materialism. Allopathic medicine is materialism. You cannot walk two paths. And what is important about spirituality, about medicine, about healing arts, about how we see the world, is how functional it is, how well it works for you. That's what it comes down to. Does it work? Does it heal you? Does it help you? Or does it not? And inside normal human and animals, it is natural and always for many thousands and thousands of years that we dealt with everything in a human animal perspective. And that is, and I can show it to you because I'm fluent in hand talk, and that is a lot of wisdom in hand talk. And how humans and animals see the world is, there is sky world above us, there is everything that is good here on the earth, and then there's under the earth. And that's spiritual, that is traditional native medicine. And it also echoes to Chinese, because the sky world is also everything that's above our neck and in our head space. And the earth is everything that's at the level of the heart. And then the underworld is everything underneath your diaphragm in your body. Those are the three chambers of the body: the head, the heart space, and then below the diaphragm. And this is all physiologically connected and communicated through the vagus system, which is bidirectional. There's a central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, autonomic nervous system. You can go into it through allopathic medicine or whatever if you want. But that's not natural human medicine. That is what matters, is what is your human real experience. What have you experienced? What do you see, taste, touch, feel, see around you? It is far more functional to deal with things in a spiritual, natural, human way. And if you want to calm and stick with these things that you're diagnosed with and you own it, and then you have to take drugs for it, and it becomes part of your personal makeup and your identity, then that's part of your identity. I don't want anything to do with that. When you deal with things on a spiritual level, you can talk to these things. You can ask them to give me some space. Can you tell me what's wrong? Do you understand how old I am now? How old do you think I am? These spirits often think that you're a child, because that's when they first rose up to protect you. and to help you. And they don't know what time it is, and they don't know where you are in life, and because they just come back as if it is that time that they came around. And when you talk to them and say, hey, I've grown, I'm stronger, you begin to unburden them. And when you unburden these spirits, because they have other stuff to do, they want to do other things for you. They have a lot of energy to give, but this is bound up energy. This is all tied up. And when you start working with them and freeing them, your life will change. Your disorders, syndromes, diseases, they will go away. And I have seen this, and I have done this with many people. I've done it with myself. This is spirit recovery, soul retrieval. This is recovering yourself and making yourself whole. That's what heal means. It's Anglo-Saxon for the word whole, to be whole. And I really can't get into how to work with these spirits and whatnot here on the short video. But you have to decide. Do you have a disease? Do you have a disorder? Do you have a syndrome that you carry around with you, that you own, that's part of your identity? Are you living in a spiritual world, in a world of spirits that you can negotiate with and talk with, that are not there to hurt you, even though it might appear hurtful, because in this day you're trying to do something, and that spirit that knows everything from the past is like, no, don't do that. You're going to get hurt, because it doesn't know, it's not current. And you've been shut off from these things. When you start communicating with them, you can open up. They can work for you. They can function. You can recover lost energy that's been bound up. You can lose bad thoughts. You can grow. You can develop. You can add things into your life that you wanted to add, that these things were keeping away to protect you, not knowing that they're now hurting you. These are adaptations and compensations that you made that were helpful and useful at the time that these spirits came into being, but are no longer helpful. They're now a hindrance. And until you work with them and get them to understand what's going on and where they're at, they're just going to keep trying to protect you from things that aren't there anymore. These are past injuries. So I hope that gives you something to think about. Is it a spirit? Can I talk to it? Does it affect my vision, my hearing, my feelings, my emotions, my physiology? Is this thing affecting me? And if it is, it's not you. Your core self, you know your core self, your spiritual self is unassailable, untainable, cannot be made dirty, cannot be killed, cannot be destroyed. When you are centered and grounded in yourself, you have clarity. You have confidence. You have creativity. You're calm. And when these other things come up, they push you out of yourself. They take over, right? This spirit takes you over. You're not calm. You're not clear. You're reactive, right? That's a spirit. And you can work with them. You know, you can't talk to a diagnosis. You can't talk to the disease. You have to talk to the spirit and work with that. And you'll start healing. And, you know, if you need to, go look at family system therapy, because that'll give you a lot of direction and clues. You can look at somatic experiencing and things like that. But really, you know, it's still allopathy. But it might give you some directions into how to think about things better. Anyway, we're spiritual beings living on the earth. Our bodies are made out of the earth. We are shapes of the earth. Just like any shape of the earth, what grows in that earth depends on how the earth is shaped. And our bodies are a earthly garden that grows spirit. That's what grows. In our bodies, human spirits grows. That's why we're shaped like humans. In a deer's body, deer spirit grows. That's why it's shaped like a deer. How you shape the earth depends on what's going to grow in it. Anyway, let's just get rid of diseases and disorders and syndromes and let them go, because they're nothing but an anchor around you. And start living like a spiritual being in a living world that's not bound up in a materialistic mindset that is toxic. As you've seen, this is why the world is toxic. Oversaw Megawajich Kion. Good luck to all of you. Blessings to all of you. Ulala Mekungan is good luck. Be well. Kakazon Mo Kion.